Hey there, productive people. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to create a follow-up system inside of Notion that indicates when you need to follow up with something, how many days it's been past due, and you can even set a custom interval for your reminders. So if you need to follow up with Joe every 2 days, you can do that. But if you need to follow up with Jill every 7 days, you could do that. This follow-up system is going to have an on and off switch as well, so you can turn follow-ups off entirely if you don't want to be reminded of something for a follow-up. It would also work well if you have a maintenance agreement with a client and you have certain tasks that you complete for them and you have certain periods between those tasks. But the best way to illustrate it is as a follow-up reminder in a CRM or a prospect database. And we've had people ask us to build this, so here we are building it. Now let's go ahead and call this Follow-Up Hub. And this is where we're going to see all of the information about our follow-ups. I'm just going to create a new page, and we're just going to call this page People. Now, I just wanted to touch on one more thing before we dive into this tutorial. If you want to access all of my Notion templates, including a template that's very similar to the one that we're going to be building today, then you can join my Notion All Access Pass. The link to that will be below. There's two options. You can either just get the Productive Brain, which is our flagship Notion template for tasks, notes, habits, or you can get the Notion All Access Pass, which includes 4 more templates, including the CRM, where we have this feature that I'm explaining in today's video. Anyways, click that link below. I'm going to throw a discount code at you as well on the screen right now. And if you order today, you can use this discount code right here, and it should get you a discount on the Productive Brain or the All Access Pass, whichever one you choose. Now back to the video. So this is going to be our people database. So we'll make it a people table. I'll rename this to person. So this is where we're going to put the person's name. And the first thing that we need, we'll delete the tags. The first thing that we need though is an interval. So we're going to add an interval select property. And this is just a single select property. And we can add some random people in here like Joe and Jill and Jane. And we can give them all custom intervals for how many days between each follow-up we want for these people. So for Joe, let's just go with 1 day. For Jill, let's go with 7 days. And with Jane, we're going to go with every 14 days. And you can change the color of these if you want, but that's just for aesthetic purposes. There's not going to be any functionality with that. So just something to keep in mind. If you want to change this, you can. You can add as many days as you want here as well. Next, we have to create a date property for followed up. So I'll create a date and we'll name it followed up. So this is the date that we followed up with the prospect. Let's go ahead and create a button now. So we'll call this follow up button. And I'm going to click into this button and we'll hit edit property. And when this button is clicked, we're going to call it follow up. So when this button is clicked, it changes the followed up date to now. So now, if I click this follow up button, it's just going to set the followed up time and date for whenever I click that button. I can also come in here and manually change this if I need to. So if you accidentally click the followed up button and it was a little bit off, you can come in here and change the last follow up. But this is just going to be a running count of when you last followed up with the person so that you know when you need to follow up next and how many days are between this. Now you can also add things in here like their phone number, you can add their email, but these sorts of things don't apply to the follow-up system. They're just nice to haves if you want to have all of this information in one spot. Now we also need to make a special state for this so that we can turn off the follow-up system. So in order to do that, we're going to create a checkbox. And this checkbox is going to be called follow-up not required. So next we need to add a button called start. And this button is going to turn the system on. This is going to make it so that essentially you can start the follow-ups. And we're going to label this as start follow-ups today. Okay, now we have to click into edit property, and there's one more thing that we have to do here. We have to add an action for this. So start follow-ups today is going to set the followed up date just like follow-up button does. We're going to set it to today. And it makes sure that this is unchecked. So follow-up not required should be unchecked, because follow-up is required if you start the system. And now we're going to click away, and let's just say that this is off and this is clear. What this should do when I hit start follow-ups is it should add followed up, and it should also check or uncheck this box. There we go. So it says followed up, and this is also the starting date. So this is basically the reference point from where you want the interval to go from. Now I'm going to duplicate start, and we're going to name this one end. And the only difference on this one is we're going to want to edit the button, and we're going to want to get rid of this followed up date. And we're going to change the follow up not required to checked so that the follow up is no longer required. And we're going to call this, I'll go back into it because I accidentally clicked out. we're going to call this turn off follow-ups. And we can actually call this disable. I think that would be a better, and we'll disable follow-ups. Okay, so now we have an on and off button, start and stop. So stop is just going to check this. Now we have to calculate using a formula what we want our next follow-up date to be based on what the followed up date is and based on if this is checked or not. So I'm going to hit plus and I'll call it next follow up. So here I've just pasted in the formula, and the formula is a bit confusing to see like this. So I've gone ahead and broken it down on the home page here. So we have date add first. So we're going to be date adding the followed up property, and we're going to figure out what we're going to add that with. And to do that, we create an interval variable and we assign the interval property to that variable. And once we do that, we can figure out how many days each of these different intervals should be. So the goal of this formula is to figure out how many days until our next follow-up. And then it's going to give us a new future date. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we change these intervals out to match exactly what we want over here for our intervals. So for me, I'm just going to go with 1, 7, and 14. So for me, I just need 1, 7, and 14. And then we're going to keep the 0 in there as well. If it's not filled in or if the interval doesn't have anything, we're just going to treat it as 0. Now I need to get rid of some of these parentheses because we don't have as many interval options here. I think that will work, but I can adjust it if not. And now this date between will be fine. So we can copy this, carry it over to our people database, and we can paste that in. And it looks like it's going to work. Let's just hit done and let's see if it works. So I'm going to say I followed up today, and the next follow up is May 11th. So there's something wrong here. It's because I spelled these wrong. So I need to make sure that I spell these intervals the exact same in here. So this one's just 1 day. Doesn't have every in there, 7 days, 14 days. And if I hit done now it should work. So if I hit followed up, it's going to add 7 days to the 11th, and that is the 18th. So that's our next follow-up date. Next, we have to create the follow-up status. So I'm going to type in formula. We're going to get another formula, and we'll just call it follow-up status. Now, this formula is going to be a little bit different. This one is going to include some styling, and it'll tell you how many days it's overdue, or it'll tell you how many days until the next follow-up because it has this now logic built into it. You can change the styling of this if you want to, just by changing what's between these here. The styling is pretty simple to set up. I just went over that in my Notion full tutorial, but basically just put a style wrap around your text. I've added some emojis in here. And then B stands for bold. You can change the color, you can change the color of the background, and then you just close it off and continue with your formula. I'm just going to hit done, and right out of the gate, you'll see that this looks pretty good. And all of these are for follow-ups that are in the future. But let's imagine that these follow-ups are in the past. So if they're past due, it'll look like this: follow-up past due by 4 days. Now, if I hit follow-up not required, we want to make this actually say that it's essentially not required. So for that case, what we're going to do is we're just going to put another if statement around this whole thing. And I'm just going to write if follow up not required equals true, meaning it's checked. Then we're going to say follow up not required. And we can put some style around this, but we can make it kind of boring looking. Follow up not required. And then we'll do comma after that. So this is our string that we want to style. And then we can put in the styles. So we'll go with bold and we'll do code, and I'll close that all off. And then we're going to add another comma because what we want next is this right here. And then I'm going to add some parentheses in the outside of it. And now, as you can see, it worked, but you actually need to use a C instead of the word code so that you get the actual styling that I was going for here. And if I hit done and this button's checked now it's just going to say follow up not required. But then if we hit start follow-ups, it's just going to take today and it's going to make the next follow-up May 12th. Now we can create a second formula that tells us if something is due today because this current formula doesn't handle that logic. So let's go ahead and create that formula. We'll just create a due today formula. So this one is basically just saying if the interval is not empty and the follow-up status equals, which the follow-up status is here, follow-up past due by 0 days. So if it says this exact phrase right here, then we just want to style this and have it say what we want it to say. So let's just show an example of this. Let's say that this was yesterday. This is going to say follow-up past due by 0 days, and this will say follow-up due today. So what we want to do now is we want to parse these two formulas into a final formula. Now I could use let function probably and get all of this crammed into one formula, but I just wanted to make this simpler on myself and I just decided to do it this way. So we're actually just going to now say if, and we're going to go do today equals, and then we're going to hit done. We're going to click into here. We're going to grab the text right here. I'm going to copy that and we're going to go into here and we're going to say if do today equals this, then we want it to say do today, and we're going to add the styling. So we're going to style. So then we're going to grab the styling, paste it in here. So if this do today equals this, then we're going to style it exactly the same and display it here. And then if it doesn't equal that, then we're just going to take whatever follow-up status is. Then follow-up status. We're going to enter that. I'm going to hit done. So now it's going to give us a master follow-up status right here. So I'll just call this master follow-up status. And then you can hide these. And now you don't even need to worry about it. You don't even need to worry about next follow-up. You're just going to have your follow-up status. You can hide that as well. And if I hit disable follow-ups, it's just going to say follow-up not required. If I hit start follow-ups today, it's going to change the followed up date. And if I hit follow up, that will also change when it was last followed up with. I can come in here and I can manually change this. Now, if it says 0 days, it'll actually show follow up is today because this is a 1 day interval and yesterday was May 10th. So this is handling all the logic for us and we get nice reminders. So how can we make this into an intuitive dashboard where we can see all of these things sorted out? Well, what we can do is go back to our followed up hub. I'm going to delete this first formula that we created here. Again, those will be below if you want to copy those. And I'm just going to hit slash and we're going to type in call out. And this we're going to call databases. And this is how I like to set up my workspaces. I just have a databases area and we'll just add a people icon to that. Next, we'll create a views call out. So this views call out is going to be where we store all of our different instances of this database. So we're going to list out the different instances that we want to see. So first of all, I know that I want to see, past due. I want to see due today. I want to see upcoming. And these are a good start. So we're going to turn all of these into pages. And now we have pages for all of those views. We'll drag them up here. Now, these are just going to be different instances of this database based on these different sorting factors. So we're going to change the past due to something a little bit urgent, like this red circle. Due today, we'll make it orange, and upcoming, we'll make it yellow. And you can change the order of these if you want to. And we'll also hit @ below here, and I'm going to type in follow up hub to link back to this page that we have right here so that we can toggle between these things easily. So follow up hub is now linked. And it's going to create this backlink right here. We can also add an icon. Let's just make the icon for this green. And let's go ahead and customize this so that we don't see these backlinks. I'm just going to turn them off. And now we have a full menu system here. So I'm just going to turn this into a synced block, and then I'll drag databases into that synced block as well. We'll copy this sync, and I'm going to head over and populate all of my pages really quickly just by clicking between them like so. And now we have a nice menu system created where we always have our databases and views to toggle between. Now we can go to each of these pages and we can add a special call out for each page that gives us exactly what this page is about. So for past due, we're just going to create a call out, and I'm going to call it past due. It already has that exclamation point there, which is fitting. I'm just going to change the background here to gray so that it matches these other call outs. And I'm going to drag it to the side here. Once it's dragged to the side, we're going to make this a full width page. And I'm going to drag it in like so that I just see my menu over here and it's less obstructive. And I can just type in /linked and I can grab linked view of database. Here we can decide what database we want to link to, which I'm going to link to people, which is that database that we just created. And now I'm going to drag it into past due, and we're going to rename this to people. I'll change the icon here to a person, like the one that we have there. Now that I have this whole starter database in here, I'm just going to copy this for the sake of saving us all time. And we're going to paste this into all of our instances. So I'm going to go into the due today, paste it, drag it to the side, and we're going to go through that same thing here where we make it full width, drag this down, go into past due, make sure it looks the same, All right, now we're gonna do it for upcoming. Full width, paste, drag to the side, pull it down. Now all of these are looking amazing. And for the followed up hub, let's just paste, put it in, width, drag this down. Now we're gonna start by editing the past due page, and we're gonna make this relevant to whatever is past due. So I just wanna filter just to see what is past due. So what we need to check is we need to check this master follow-up status, because right here in the follow-up status, the original one, it doesn't include information that's accurate for the due date, because the due date's actually today. It's not quite past due. But say we followed up on the 9th, then it would actually be past due. So we're gonna go off of the master follow-up status when we're doing our filtering. So I'm just gonna first start by creating a filter, and we're gonna filter for the master follow-up status. And I want this to be contains past due. And then if this contains past due, it's now only going to show us whatever is past due in here. And if we want to have something as past due, we might want the disable follow-ups button in here if we just want to turn it off altogether. I'm going to hide due today. We'll keep their email. We'll keep follow-up. What else would be good to have? We'll turn follow-up required to hidden. We'll drag the interval over as well so that we can edit that quickly and easily. I'll drag the start button over as well. And we only want the master follow-up status, so I'm going to hide that other one in this view. I'm going to hide the followed up in this view, and the next follow-up, we'll drag phone number in. So we're just making this as practical as possible for the exact situation. So I'm actually just going to rename these buttons to start and disable so that it's a little bit more intuitive now that we know what they do. So we'll just do start, and we'll name this one disable. And for follow-up button, we're just going to get rid of button because it's pretty self-explanatory. That's a lot cleaner. So now that this is filtering by past due in the master follow-up status, I'm able to see everything that's past due here, and I'm able to edit everything that's relevant about that. So if I needed to follow up with Joe 1 day ago, it's going to give me my follow-up status here, and it's going to put it within this view. Now let's go to due today, and it's going to start us fresh. We haven't sculpted this one out yet, but we're just going to do a similar thing to what we did with past due. So I'll actually just grab this once again. I know I already did this, but I'm going to try to grab this once again here. And I'm just gonna use this because it's a lot closer to what we want. So I'll paste that, and we'll delete that old one. And this one, we're just gonna change the filter to master follow-up status is, or it contains today. And we're gonna go to the people database. This is a good place to set up our tests. And we're gonna make one of these say today. There we go. So now this one says due today. We'll go back to the due today, and let's see. Yep, now we got it here. And we didn't need to go through and hide all of that. Everything here looks good. So this is working now as well. I just need to rename it to due today. And we'll go with the sun icon. Let's just copy this once more because it's probably pretty close for upcoming as well. We'll paste it in, and I'll delete that old one, that old placeholder. And we're just going to type in upcoming. And this one is going to be follow-ups that are in the future. So we'll just do that little repeating cycle picture there. And for this one, we're just going to change the filter to, well, follow up on, I think is what it needs to be, because that's going to be included in all of these future ones, follow up on. So the filter for upcoming needs to be follow up, and then you need to add the keyword on, because that's what differentiates it and makes it a future follow-up date. So now we have these different relevant views. We can see exactly what's upcoming here in this view. We can see what's due today on this view, and we can also see what is past due here, and it all updates dynamically. You could also create more views in here. Like this view could just be a view of everything, and you can create like a gallery if you wanted to. So I'll just create a gallery. You could add images of the person in here, or you could just select which properties you want to see. Like let's say you want follow up in here. You want disable, you want start. I'll just go ahead and hide the page content there. And now we just see all of our prospects, the buttons to change this, and we see the follow-up status, the master follow-up status. I could rename this to master view, and you could really make this master view look however you want. I hope you enjoyed this follow-up system tutorial inside of Notion, and if you did, then you should join our Notion All Access Pass, where I have more trainings like this on different productivity systems that you can implement inside of Notion. When you buy the All Access Pass, you also get access to my follow-up system just like this, but it has a lot more features and it's more robust, so I think that you'll enjoy that as well. The link to that will be below. And if you want to watch another Notion video, I think you would like this one, so you should definitely check it out.